的这个他自己个人兴趣的原因。深度的了解各个行业，从矿业到生物医学到区块链。他呢创办了自己的投资经纪公司。刚刚具有介绍说他是创办了 iRock 公司的，是 iRock 公司的 CEO。这个要更正一下。iRock 呢是 Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada， 中文就是加拿大投资行业监管组织。那他的那个公司是这个监管组织之下的一个 member， 就是说他的公司是受 iRock 监管的，稍微更正一下。那 Mr. Moon 呢，从2017年开始在 Focus Learning 教授少年企业家系列课程。他以他丰富的学识、浅显易懂的授课方式和谦逊亲和的态度，赢得了学生的尊重和信任。有些同学呢，甚至会在凌晨1、2点钟想到一些有关商业或者是投资方面的问题，或者学习方面的问题，会在 Microsoft Teams 上给他留言。而 James 老师呢，也是有问必答。我们今天有位 Ryan 同学，高中毕业了，他从17年开始就上少年企业家课。那他现在选择的呢，是他最终应该是选择了那个 Wilford Laurier 的那个 Business 商学院，也是受 Mr. Moon 的影响很大。2021年的9月，就是去年的9月到12月 ，Mr. Moon 呢指导了3组由9到12年级学生组成的队伍，参加沃顿商学院举办的全球高中生投资大赛。那这是一场为假想客户制定投资组合方案的一个全球性的在线的投资大赛。要考评的是参赛选手对投资策略的理解和选择，并且要说明他们做这个投资的依据。James 老师以这个比赛为契机，在选择股票的过程中，引导学生思考未来的职业道路。那正如他女儿今天悟出的一个道理 ，Everything we do involves business。我们所做的任何事情都离不开商业 business。而他经常和学生分享的一个道理就是 follow the money, follow the intelligence。向智慧的人看齐，紧跟市场资金的流向。那在 Mr. Moon 的牵头下，我们是不定期的为学生开设这个 CEO Talk， 这是一个公益性的讲座。那由 Mr. Moon 呢邀请各个行业的 CEO 为学生介绍本行业的现状和职业前景。学生在互动沟通中呢，就可以近距离的了解未来的职业选择。这是我们的这个课程体系了，感兴趣的可以。那今天我们的讲座呢，是由 James 老师围绕一个很大的话题，就是说作为家长，我们如何为孩子营造一种环境，让他们在这个环境当中呢，可以提早思考和规划未来的职业。James 老师呢，他是整合型的思维模式，所以海报上的这4个话题是将穿插在他的整个讲座当中。那在这期间呢，是为了保持他讲座的流畅，我仅仅可能会做一些简单的中文解释。在这个过程当中，非常欢迎家长或者是有孩子们也进来参加这个讲座，你们可以利用 chat 来提问。到8点半左右呢，我们会开通这个问答环节。好，那非常感谢大家，我们现在来有请 Mr. Moon。Okay, Mr. Moon, you want to take over?
Yeah. So welcome everybody for taking the time out to join us tonight. I'm going to do something a little different and I'm not sure everybody's English in here, so I'm going to speak at a reasonable level because I can speak quite quickly as well. So I apologize, and I think SHELLY will jump in and sort of smooth over things when I probably get going a little too quickly here. There's a lot of people out there that are talking about entrepreneurship, especially grade 7 all the way up. And there's a lot of people talking about mock stock trading contests and quantitative analysis and things like that. But what I found over the last 4.5 years of teaching the class with focused learning has been, and I stepped into this as sort of a side thing, because I guess I'll back up for 1 second just to explain who I am. I've been in the business since 1986. I'm portfolio manager. I run a very large portfolio of clients, but I've been a CEO of an IROC member firm, which is the equivalent of a TD Waterhouse or a CIBC or a Goldman Sachs, same license, so full universe from investment banking all the way to bond trading. I've also been an investment banker. I was a derivative bond trader in Zurich, Switzerland, and Qatardo Bank for several years in the 90s. And I've lived around the world and worked around the world. So that's my experience. But one of the things that I found when I first stepped into one of Folks Learning classes was that when I asked the students on the first day that I was there, what types of careers in education they were looking at past high school, and these were students that were in Havergal, Crescent, Upper Canada, and some of the other well-known schools. Not one of them could put up their hand and tell me what their type of career they were looking at going down the path. So instead of doing all the mock stock trading and things like that right off the bat, which is exciting, I designed a bunch of courses that help us model where the students are going, so that they can look at the careers. And I'll share in a second. Yeah, I'll share screen. Just give me a second. And therefore integrate the students with the parents and help each other try to understand a lot more than what they understand right now. So I'm going to kind of briefly, I'm going to make this a little fun tonight. This is, we're not going to get into mock stock trading, because even though we're going to go over it, it's a byproduct of everything that we're going to cover tonight. So it makes it interesting, but it's not the main goal here. The main goal is try to show you some techniques that you can have with your children that allow them to become more integrated in what's going on, and thus start to actually feel like, wow, we get this, and we can actually be a little bit more investigative out there. And I hope this helps. So one of the things we're going to start with tonight is, and I've got the slides up here, is we're going to start with colors. Now, I don't know how many of you have spoken to your children about colors, okay, and what colors mean and how important they are. But we're going to go over that as an intro here. And I can tell you from the way we put this in front of the kids, it's a great way to pique their interest. And then they see a lot of stuff around them that suddenly becomes reality. And they're not so young anymore, thinking that they don't know what's going on around them. They can actually be right up there with you as a parent, competing on what they're actually seeing and what's going on. So is everybody familiar with colors, blue and red and other things and what they stand for? I've got chat, so this is going to be a bit of an integrative thing. If you want to step up and make some chats, I'd love to see it, because I want to be able to see if people are paying attention here or what's going on. I'm wearing mainly blue tonight. Yes. So I like rainbow. There you go. Okay. So I've got 4 screens in front of me here, and I'm not a big power user of Zoom. So bear with me. I'm a Microsoft Teams user. So I'm going to hopefully be able to control all this technology tonight. So somebody's got rainbow. Good. So let me explain something here. If I flip to the next screen, you're going to see President Bush here. And I think most of you as parents, bright yellow is my favorite color. There you go, Dan. Thanks very much. We'll get into yellow in a minute, actually. It's one of the colors we'll touch on here tonight. But why am I going down this path with you to show you this stuff? Because the students, once they see this, they start to see it all around them all the time, and it makes a lot of sense. So is everybody familiar with the color blue then? Because if you're not, I'll get in it. And you're probably not, so I'll get into it here as well. You'll notice here that President Bush here is wearing blue. And what's interesting about this picture, okay, and you can go find these on YouTube, and I'll show you a quick video clip of it. You'll notice he's wearing blue. And what this was this is a speech that President Bush was making at the UN just before the Iraq War. Sorry? I'm sharing it right now. I can't see it? Well, it's being shared. Sorry? So who is, nobody can see the shared screen? Okay.
No.
That's not good here. Let me just, I don't have any other way of sharing it. Yeah. Yeah, I did that already. It's highlighted.
And then press share.
Okay. Not allowing me to share yet. Okay, somebody's turned off the sharing, I guess. Okay, no, I can't share now. Okay. So, yeah, I did that. Yep. Okay, let's try that. Can you see that screen now? Okay, great.
Yes, that's coming.
Yeah, great. Sorry, guys. So I'm just going to get this back up so I've got the chat in there too. I prefer Teams, so we're going to be chat. I'll just get chat back up here again so I can see what everybody's saying. Okay, so you'll notice he's wearing blue, and what happened here was that he was about to go to war with Iraq, and he needed to go and speak to the UN Assembly, and most of the students and your children will know the UN, and they can go and you can teach this what the UN is, United Nations. And he had to address the UN to get approval by the countries, the majority anyway, to go to war with Iraq. And what's interesting is you'll notice that while he's addressing the UN, he's wearing almost all blue. Does anybody want to take a guess at why he's wearing all blue? And they can speak, or you can means peace. Yeah, that's close to correct. It's certainly a good. I'm glad you're answering because this is what I want to see. It does sort of mean peace, but it means something more important. Anybody else want to take a shot? Assuring, yes, assuring. That's actually a great word, Dan. And I'm not being simple here with you by saying this, because this is. You won't believe the explanations we get from the students, and this is why there's got to be more integration with the parents and students, and they really start to see things in a different light on TV and everything that's around them when they learn these colors. So what blue stands for? So the top number for what blue is trust. Okay, so and that's why policemen wear blue, and you're about to see why politicians wear blue and why they wear red when they need to wear red. So what happened here is he needed a trusting speech to the UN so people would vote yes, that what he was saying to them was true, okay? And if they believed him because he was trustworthy, then they would vote yes, and he would be given the right to go to war. So how do you think the vote turned out? Do you think the vote was positive or negative? And I'll show you the video.
I'm pleased to be here to address the General Assembly. 63 years ago, representatives from around the world gathered in San Francisco to...
So I just wanted to show you that clip for a minute, and then I'll bring it back. So you could see that he was speaking to the UN. Does anybody want to make a quick suggestion of how that vote went? Do you think it was a yes or a no? It was a yes, and we know that because the United States did go to war. But what I want to show you is the day after that vote was a yes. Of course, he decided to go to war, and you don't wait 5 months to go to war, you go right away. So here was the video of him addressing the American public several days later with the war. And I'm going to bring this up.
10 years ago, on March 19, 2003, President Bush announced the start of military action in Iraq.
We're in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free...
Now, I want to ask everybody here, what color tie is he wearing there? wearing a red tie. And why do you think he's wearing a red tie today? The day after wearing a blue tie to address the United Nations for a vote. Red is blood, yes. That, you know what? As when they go to war, you're right, it's blood. But there was another reason why he's wearing a red tie. Great answer. Okay, so why he's wearing a red tie, is attention getter, win the game. Yes, those are all great answers. I'm glad that people are actually writing these down, because this is how you start to think a little bit and get what's going on. Red actually stands for power. So what he was doing here now is that he wasn't asking the American people to go to war. He wasn't asking them for their trust. He was now telling them in a red tie, and it's still wearing a blue suit, okay, that he had the power to go to war, okay, like a bullfight. Yes, like a bullfight. Very good answer. So he was telling the people, and he was telling them that he had the power to guide them into a war. So there's a reason why he didn't just wake up that morning and decide, I'm going to wear a red tie or a blue tie. This was all previously designed. He didn't just guess this, okay? So why do I bring this up for you and the students? Because the students go out every day, or they watch TV, or they go to school, and these signals that they see, the blue and the red and the yellows and things like that, it just goes right by them. And the reason why it goes right by them is because they haven't been taught this. If they start to get taught this, they start to pay a little bit more attention to their surroundings. And when they do that, it changes everything. So I'm teaching kids in grade 12, 13, down to 7 and 6, and they have no idea that, and university students for that matter, and they have no idea until I give them this lesson. So why is this important? Well, I can flip to someone like President Xi, who there he is wearing a blue tie. And then there's another shot, he's wearing a red tie. Okay. So clearly on this speech, he was doing something where he wanted people to trust him, that what he was saying was truthful. And in this speech, he was more, okay, I've got something to tell you, and this is the way it's going to be, and that's the power side. So this is the kind of stuff, and I want you to see the Wharton Business School class. This was the winners last year. You notice what color they're all wearing? They had to make speeches. What color are they all wearing? They ended up winning it. This is the actual client that was it. They're all wearing blue, including the teacher. This was the client that they had to model the portfolios with. And you notice what she's wearing? She's wearing all red. She's trying to show tons of power here, and the school and the teacher had to stand up in front of her and convince her that they had built the right model portfolio for her, okay? And we had been in this competition. We had to model a portfolio too, as well with her, and we knew that she was a power type person. And sure enough, in the final day of the competition, this class won down the state, and she were all red and they were all blue because they wanted her to trust them with their speeches at the end of the day. So it's imperative that the students learn this, and as they learn this, they start to realize that when they're watching TV and they're doing other things, that wow, they get an understanding of what color is. So I'm going to set an example. Let's say you wanted to go get a job at McDonald's right now, and although it's McDonald's and it's not a high-paying job, you want to get a job at McDonald's. What would be an interesting color to wear to the interview at McDonald's? Somebody said it earlier. You want to take a guess?
Yellow?
Yellow. Yes, Dan. Of course, yellow. And the same with Crescent. If you were trying to get your son into Crescent, if anybody knows the colors of Crescent, it's green. So Upper Canada College is blue. If I wear a blue tie to a Crescent interview to get into the school, and I'm up against another student that's wearing a green tie, which is the colors of Crescent, and I'm the interviewer, I'm going to take the student, if they're fairly close in their marks, I'm going to take the student that wore the green tie. And the reason for that is I know that they came prepared. They understood the colors of our school. they came and dressed in an outfit that brought that feeling of the school out. So once you teach this to the students or your children, they start to now go, wow, look at that person on TV tonight. They're wearing a blue tie and a blue suit. They're trying to tell me something that I should trust them on. And then the next night they're wearing red, they go, okay, they're being powered. So this plays a crucial point in hiring and all kinds of things that people don't even realize that goes on out there. So I can tell you personally, if somebody shows up to an interview for me for a job and they're wearing all red, a red tie and a red puff, I'm not going to hire them because it's just too much power they're showing, okay? I want a little bit of power and a little bit of trust. So there's a lot that goes in to the way you look at colors that surround you. So I'm not going to take much more time on this, but I just wanted to let you know that this is how we get you the parents and the students involved. So you can see here quickly, this is the color blue, trust and responsibility. Okay, there's the color red, which is energy, passion, and action. Okay, so let's jump into the next part. How do we get the children interested in business, but not just business, careers and ideas of where they want to go? And I know we have a limited time tonight, so we're not going to spend hours on this, but I just want to show you there's several approaches. A top-down approach, which is looking at the big picture from a top-down. And I'll give you an example. We could call global warming, okay? Environmental. That's a top-down approach. You're looking at a big environmental. The bottom-up approach would be, how do we individually solve global warming? So when a Tesla with an Elon Musk comes along and says, okay, let's look at the overall environmental global warming. He had no idea that he was going to invent an electric car, okay, or bring up electric car. In fact, electric cars have been around for 100 years. They just weren't in the right time zone to get it going. So when he looked at global warming, he started to break things down and said, okay, we have carbon dioxide, we have mercury in the water, we have all these different things going on. What can we do in that area? And that's when they got deeper into it and said, well, the bottom-up approach is let's look at electrification. And we'll make an electric car, and we'll do everything that involves the infrastructure around electric car. And that's the bottom-up once you've looked at the top-down approach. So we cover that with the students, and I think you can do this every time. So where this comes into play is we bring in something like a periodic table. Now, there'll be some of your children that don't want to do chemistry, and that's fine. But anybody here can bring up, and by the way, they may love chemistry after they do this. So any of you can bring up a periodic table, print it out, and it's nice and colorful. And you can then pick one of the actual elements off the periodic table and talk about it. And you say, well, what's there to talk about here? It's chemistry. Well, I'm going to give you guys an example of how deeply you can go off of any element on the periodic table and build it into everything you're talking about. Stock trading, careers, jobs, opportunity, everything. So let's take helium up on the top right, okay, as our one element. So here we've got helium. Let's dig a little deep into helium. Here's helium. It's a gas. It's non-flammable. It's used in balloons and all kinds of other fun things. But this is an element that is in the ground and it's in short supply. If you had, and we taught this 5 years ago, if you had invested in helium 5 years ago, you've done quite well on helium because the actual price of helium as a resource has gone up quite a bit. But let's take a deep look at how we get the students interested. So, and I'm going to give you guys an example. Netflix and Amazon, okay? Over here in the corner are hard disks. And most of our children know all about hard disks because they're spinning them where they're gaming, they're everything else, but they don't really think about this until you bring it up to them. So here's a good way to get the kids interested, the children interested. If you look here, hard disks are usually filled with oxygen, okay? But oxygen is a little bit denser than helium. So what happens is they now do disks in helium. And the reason why they do that is because it's less dense, it spins better, and it doesn't heat up as much, okay? And they'll know what a disk does when it heats up and when it doesn't heat up. So what Google and Netflix have done is that they run these massive server rooms and they replaced all their disks with helium. Does anybody know why they would replace their disks with helium hard drives instead of oxygen? Anybody want to take a guess at that? Yes, and the UN logo is also sky blue. Yes, that's correct. Why would these Netflix change their hard drives from oxygen to helium inside this big room? Anybody want to take a shot, a guess at that? And it's a business decision. Okay, I don't want to take up a lot of time, so I will fire away here because I don't see any answers here. It's a business decision. So Netflix right now competes against other companies like Amazon and Disney for your Netflix movie. Every time you order a Netflix movie, okay, it costs you $1.50. If you order an Amazon movie, it might cost $1.25. One of the reasons for that is that Netflix is still running oxygen and Amazon's running helium. All these rooms take a lot of energy to cool down because they're hot. The cooler the room, the less cost to cool that room, right? If the hard drives aren't getting hot. So therefore, that cost will now come all the way down to you as a purchaser of that movie. So instead of paying $1.50, you could pay $1.25. If I do a poll to all the students in the class, heat dissipation, exactly. If I do a poll to all the students in the class, they will buy the $1.25 movie over the $1.50 movie because it's cheaper. Okay? So yeah, move to the north. They can also do that as well for people that are in blockchain and crypto. They put a lot of things that are up north where it's cooler, right? In Iceland. So you can see here now the students get to get integrated because they have reality around them. They understand hard drives, they get hot. Okay? They understand that helium goes into this. Another great teaching lesson, and I'm going to teach everybody how to get to these type of lessons. So even though these are here, they're not things that you can't do. So here's a balloon made by Google, okay? And I want to make you think a little bit tonight because this is what this is all about. This is how we interact with our children. This is a balloon designed by Helium or by Google, and it's called Project Loon. It's just wrapped up, actually. But why did they design this balloon? What's this at the bottom of the balloon? It's a Google balloon, by the way. And why is Google doing this? Does anybody want to know? I don't want to embarrass the parents out here, but the students get this one quickly. What do you think this is at the bottom of that balloon? It might be delayed too, so I'll keep moving along because I don't see any answers. Okay, this is an actual transmitter, okay? Wi-Fi transmitter. And the reason why this is here is because Google, if you wanted to build transmission lines into a lot of areas around the world, it would be very, very expensive. Well, why would Google care about moving transmission lines and getting more available internet access to people around the world? And the reason for B, yes, more coverage. Exactly. So Google is looking to expand their area of coverage. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this here. To around the world. And one of the ways they can do that is helium balloons that float around the world that give you more Wi-Fi expansion, which then allows you to be on Google, more eyes on Google, give you more ad value, and they make more money. So this is where the students start to actually look around and start to think about things that might generate them new ideas, okay? So, and I'm going somewhere with careers on this in a minute. Once I show you some of the ways that we get the students interested. So another periodic table element is copper. I think we're quite familiar with copper. There's copper in a mining environment. There's the China's One Belt, One Road. Does anybody know why China has built their One Belt, One Road down into Africa? Anybody want to take a guess at why they're down into Africa? Is it because there's a lot of potential money to be sold product to Africa? Or is there a bigger reason? What is in Africa? I can make it easy by showing you. There's a lot of copper in Africa. So why would China be interested in copper? I'll show you why. If you notice right now, a typical gasoline car takes 55 pounds of copper. A hybrid car takes 110, and a full electric car takes 165 pounds of copper. Every car. Okay, that's not even the battery with things like that. So there's obviously a limited supply of copper. If people are looking to invest in things, then they should be looking at investing in copper as well, because there's going to be a very big shortage of copper. So we teach this to the kids about supply and demand so that they start to understand what supply and demand is, and they can factor this into their careers as well, because if they're going down a road that is, there's always going to be a demand, it means that there's going to be a good career in that area as well, okay? And that they should focus on that going forward. So South America has a lot of copper too as well. Absolutely it does, but it's a lot farther away for China to get to South America, although they do ship a lot across Transocean. That's a good answer. Thank you. So I'm going to keep going here because we don't have all night tonight. So how do we make this interesting? So what we do is we take magazines that are out there. And if I scroll quickly here, I'm going to show you here. Oh, that's not there. So I'm going to have to come back, and I'll just bring up an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. And bring this over. Okay, so here's an example of all the magazines that we have for our Excel, for our company. So you'll notice Barron's, Asia, Nike. So one of the things that I say to everybody here is to go and take a look at all these magazines and spend time deciding something that you might subscribe to, whether it's Asia, Nike, Barron's, some of them can be expensive, New York Times, Simply Wall Street, Wired, okay? And when you click on them, you'll see that the magazine comes up. So we provide all the subscriptions to the students on digital, and they can go in there and look at everything that's going on. Now, you obviously want to look at all the magazines to make sure there's nothing in there that's bad, but you'll see Proton is trying to become the next Google without your data. Researchers make ultra-cold quantum bubbles on space station. So all these types of interesting ideas are out there, but it's overwhelming. So what I get the parents and the students to do, or your children, is to get them to read some of the articles in some of these magazines, and we can provide that list of magazines that are out there, subscriptions, and then you go in and you look at the articles. So when I do that, I'm going to bring this up for you. Here's an article in Wired called Modeling or Extreme Heat is a Disease for Cities. So if you read the whole article, you'll see that it talks about how global warming and the heat that's being created in cities is becoming a real crisis. And one of the ways that you can deal with it is obviously get an air conditioner, right? But for the real world, not everybody can afford an air conditioner. And so the students get this. It's a business decision. So we could create green zones now, right? Where you have a lot more green in a city. But I don't think Shanghai or Mumbai or some of these cities have a lot of space left to create great big green parks. So the heat is going to continue to be there. So what we do is we get the students to read these articles, and you read them with them, and you pick out certain things that are interesting in the article, and you ask them to pick it out. So we can grow them on the roof. Yes, so you can grow things on the roof, absolutely. You can also put solar panels on your roof or discoloring type things on your roof to draw in electricity to use it for an air conditioner. These are all great things. The problem is it comes at a cost, and a lot of people don't have that around the world, and we're looking to solve around the world. So these are all interesting businesses that all of your students can go down the path of, whether they become CEOs or design new products, okay? but you got to get them thinking about what these types of careers could be, because just becoming a doctor or an engineer doesn't work. They actually have to see early on, envision, start to look at different things that are out there. So I'm going to give you guys an example. So in this article, there's a section talked about irritation of the lungs. As the cities get overheated, people start to suffer from things like asthma, lung disease. Okay? So guess what? One of the students went and looked up a company, and here's where we get into mock trade counting and or trading and all that kind of stuff. They looked up a company called Valio Pharma. It happens to trade. It's a Canadian company. Okay? And guess what they do? They do asthma treatments. Okay? So they sell asthma products. Well, interesting enough, asthma sales are going through the roof. And you can see here, here's what asthma is. Okay? And here's the company. So now we get into the quantitative side of it, where we discuss what the price is, how many shares are outstanding, what the overall value of the company is, the market capitalization, 42 million. And this is where they can do a bottom-up approach now. They understand the top-down approach, global warming, hot, and lung issues. Bottom-up approach now is, wow, if I got lung issues, I need to help people with things that can help them with lung, like asthma prescriptions. And once we've done that, we then look at the company and see whether this is a good value company to invest in, okay? Or this is a good company to maybe work for one day. So you'll say, I know what's on the students' minds now, having taught the class for a long time. They're so scared. They're scared that they're going to fail, okay? So I go and I look at this company, and you can see all the people that work for the company. And you can see that some of them, and you can do this, everybody here can do this as a parent. You can go online, look up the companies. It's all right there. The presentations are there. And you can go through these things and go and look, well, here's a scientific person, okay? So that person is obviously trained in medical. The CEO, Steve Saviak. Who would take a guess right here? Might be caused by allergies as well. Sorry. Yeah, build more pools. I'm looking at everybody here. I like it. Does anybody here believe that Steve Saviak is a scientist? What do you think? What do you think the odds are that Steve, who's running a scientific company, okay, is a scientist? What do you think? And this is important for your children to understand, because they believe that they have to become a scientist and go to med school to run a science company. Does anybody believe that Steve is a scientist? The CEO of this growing company that trades on the stock exchange? No, Dan. Thank you, Dan. He's not. So he's a business guy. Exactly. So how did he get into this space? Because he did exactly what the students are doing or what I'm training them to do now. He's reading articles. He's knowing where he needs to be. And where we can build out a quantitative model on this is we can say that not only do we need to be here, but we believe this is going to be something that's going to be going on for the next 10 and 20 years. So here's the risk, okay? A time value risk for your children. They go and they do a career, or they start down an education path. And 4 years later, once they've done their education, that career is no longer available because it's gone. It's a new technology out there. These are risks that we're facing all the time as we go so quickly through different changes in the world. So our job as parents and the students or your children is to start doing a lot more due diligence in learning where things are going to be over the long term, and then modeling it out to see if they actually like it or they don't like it. And they can do this in grades 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. They don't have to do this at third-year university, because by that time it's too late. So I'm going to give you an example that I teach the students. So modeling. If you're in your house one night and you're sound asleep, and you wake up and you sleepwalk in the house, okay? And before you know it, you've gone, it's very dark out, you wake up, and you don't know where you are. Okay, so what do? You reach out and you touch the fridge. Can anybody figure out where you are now without seeing anything? Where are you? And we'll touch on patterns as well. If you want, this is an open type environment. Where are you if you touch the refrigerator in your house? Even though you can't see it because it's all dark and you've woken up after sleepwalking. You're in the kitchen, Jane. Yeah. Okay. So as soon as you know you're in the kitchen and you're at the fridge, you know where the light switch is. So you can reach out, touch the light switch, and guess what? Everything becomes very clear. You can see everything now in your kitchen, your house. But the only reason you knew that is because you had modeled that hundreds of times over and over again, walking that space. So you knew when you touched the kitchen, the fridge, that you knew where the light switch is. Most of our children don't have a strong modeling of all the types of careers out there, so they don't know where they are when the light switch goes on. And they don't figure this out until they've already spent 3 years at university, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they come back and they say, Mom, I've gone down the wrong path. So what our job is as parents is to try to teach them to see many different areas and get them to start thinking about that with your help. So challenge them. Forget it. I get it. They got to go do calculus. They got to do chemistry. They got to do English. They got to do all those high school courses. But they have to start looking at the bigger picture. So when they look at something like this, the leadership of a scientific company, this takes the fear out of where they need to be in the future. They will think, oh my goodness, to be part of something like this, which I know is growing, I have to be a scientist to be successful. No, you don't. You can go hire scientists. You can be the CFO. You can be the head of business development. Okay? You can be the lawyer on the file that creates the company or gets all the regulatory stuff done and not be a scientist. There are so many other jobs that can be very, very successful, and yet you got to know where things are going. Without that, it's going to be a short career, and you're going to be constantly going back all the time. So how can we solve this? One is by going and looking at magazines and getting the students to look at readings and enjoy what they're reading and say, Mom or Dad, this is interesting. Next thing is, we can also follow the money on the market. Okay? So I can provide everybody this over time as well. So where's some of the biggest money going? You can see back in 2015 that a combined $6 billion was spent on AI, of investment people putting money into AI. In 2021, just in one quarter, $17.9 billion was put into AI. That's more than almost collectively these 2 years in one quarter. So is that follow the money? Is that where money's going? And if it is, do you think there's going to be interesting careers and jobs out of this because there's a lot of money going into that sector? What do you think? Yes, some are just bubbles, absolutely. But this is not a bubble. This has been going on for a very long time, and AI is growing and growing and growing. It may not be the AI that you believe, but it's going to be tons of different AI. So the first thing I'll ask my students, okay, and your children will ask you is, Mom, Dad, I'm not a great coder. Okay, I can't go and do math every day. I'm not great at coding. So this is not good for me going into AI. And this is where you've got to come back and say, well, wait a minute, okay? You don't need to be a great coder, okay? But as long as you're looking at all the subscriptions and magazines and articles and extracting information out of these, you can now predict where things are going to be, and you can be involved either in the investment side. By the way, thank you, that's great. You can either say, hey, I can't code, but I'm going to go buy some really good AI companies that while I'm doing a different job, I'm going to make money over here while I'm doing something different because I know where to be. Or I could be in this business and I'm not a coder, but I go raise capital for this business, or I'll be a CEO, or I'll be something within the AI business. Why? Because that's where the money's going. So if I was to say to you today, and people made this mistake 7-8 years ago, let's buy a taxi cab company. And say, well, it's a great company. It's been around for 50 years. It generates a lot of income. It's great. Nobody predicted that Uber would come along and make taxi car drivers non-existent. So our job is to try to look at the future by looking at all the subscriptions and articles that are being written out there, get our children to read them. You read it with them, okay? Or you pick an article, they pick an article, challenge each other. And then once you've read that article, say, hey, where are we going with this? Okay? So because education is getting shorter and shorter as we go along. Google now offers all types of career certificates right online. Okay? So people can go online and get career fields drawn very, very quickly. It's quite interesting. And this is where things are going. Okay? I don't need to go to 5 years of university. I can go and get skill update after I've done my university very quickly online. Great for the world, but this is the competition you're on out there. So let's get into some other things so you guys can see this. What we do is, and everybody here can do this. We run the MIT program here as well, which is this one, How to Build a Company, 24 Steps to Building a Company and Creating an Idea. So I know we don't have that much time, so I'll be a little bit faster here, but I want everybody to know that we have to get our children to think about creating ideas. And I find that every time I ask most of the students, the first question, have you ever thought of a new idea? Most of them are scared and they say, no, my friend thinks of new ideas, but I never think of new ideas. Yes, and SHELLY's just giving you a free spot to go to. Morning Brew is a great place to go and get new ideas. So new idea creation is just science. And everybody here can do it. So I'm going to give you guys an example of a new idea. Did anybody follow the elections in the United States when Donald Trump came out and said, make America great? Did everybody remember that campaign? Everybody remember that campaign? And I can bring up, and I can just type in here really quickly. Google America. So there's the Make America Great hat. So do you think that Donald Trump came up with that? Or was that a new idea? What do you think? I could just take out Make America Great hat. There it is there, Make America Great. And it's obviously red, which is something we've already learned tonight. That stands for power, right? He's wearing a blue suit and he's got a red hat on for power. Is that something? There's colors that just, the students pick that up right away as they go now. But do you think that Donald Trump came up with Make America Great? Or do you think that was a completely new idea? What do you think? And by the way, new ideas are in every area. It doesn't have to be that you've designed a new phone as a new idea, okay? American national flag, yes, you've got the red and you've got the blue on, that's right, which is 100%, that's all part of it. But what Donald Trump would have done is he would have gone to a committee, and this is what he would have said. He would have said, I need a new idea to get elected as the president of the United States. Tell me something that I can say to the public that is going to get them a new perspective. 100% Dan. So that's a new idea, okay? It's no different than a phone. You think it's very easy to say, make America great. It's not. So how do you make a new idea? You can teach this to your children very easily, okay? You come to, you take a whole bunch of old ideas, you put them together, and hopefully in that mush, a new idea will come out. It's scientific. It's not anything else. So what do I mean by old ideas? Here's what happened. Donald Trump sent a whole bunch of people out to the United States. to talk to the people. And the people said, oh, I'm really upset. I don't have a new job. There's no job. All of our technology is old. I'm unemployed. I'm this, I'm that. Everybody complaining. So what they did is they brought back all these negative comments from people, sat down in a room, put them together, and came up with a new idea, a slogan, Make America Great Again, like we were 45 years ago. So that was a new idea. No different than a new idea to build a phone, just not quite as sexy, okay? But it's still generating a new idea. And this is what I want you to be able to say to your children. It can be really simple. Inventions start from new ideas, 100%. And new ideas can be slogans, or they can be simple stuff like what we just talked about, okay? So the more you start to get the children feeling like they can come up with new ideas, the stronger their mindset gets, that when they read an article like Wired, okay, which I just had up here a minute ago, www.wired, in the magazine, Wired, let's see, did I have it here? I think I can bring up Wired again. Give me 1 second, everybody. Yeah, there. And this is a monthly magazine. You can go through and find out all kinds of interesting things that you can sit down with your son or daughter. And this is just one magazine. I can show you MIT. These are not expensive for yearly. Here's your MIT Inside Charm Industrial's Big Bet on Corn Stalks for Carbon Removal. So once your children start to see all these types of things, carbon removal from corn stalks, what a great idea. There might be a career in that, okay? Robotic shoulder to make it easier to grow usable human tissue. So once your children see this, they start to think, geez, that's an interesting idea. And now your job as a parent is to say, let's go take a deeper look at that, AI generated animal images or robotic shoulder. And we can go look at companies that are doing this. And your child might say, oh, not only do I want to look at that company, I might want to do that, okay? And so it started to broaden their horizons about what they're doing. And then once they're doing that, they get more and more interested in stuff. You can go look at the company, and you can look at, as we showed you right here, all the people involved with the company. Oopsie, I went the wrong way. Back here, all the people involved with the company, the share structure of the company, whether they invest or they don't invest. And this is how they suddenly become interested in business, because it means something to them now. Not, oh, Dad and Mom, I need to know about shares of the company or what the value is. Oh, they'll forget it in a minute. But if they start to understand that this is potentially careers for them in areas that they can model out, that they might want to go get education in, they start to get really interested in, oh, I now understand the share structure of this company. Or I now understand to be this type of person within the company, and this is an interesting area that I might go down. So it just gives them a little bit more of a relaxing moment in their 10th schooling when they're trying to study for all their exams, and at the same time, they don't know where they're going. And I know that everybody here has done as great a job as they can at helping them, but I'm telling you, behind the scenes, all the children are scared beyond belief. So if you get them to start doing things like this and get a little bit more involved with the reading of articles, you will find that they get really excited over there. So last but not least, I find it very interesting to, and you can go buy this book if you want. We teach this course here, and we have approval by MIT to do this, but we teach the 24 steps of how to start a company and how to build a product with a new idea and how to actually get the product out the door as a real company, okay? And what this does is this helps all of the students feel like they can actually start their own company, okay? And I'll go back here to show you. We get into the search of a name, so they come up with a name. They assign their duties, so they become CEO, CFO. They do shareholders agreement. bylaw contracts, policies and procedures, everything that a real company does. And when I mean we do it, we really do it. And you can do this at home by just going and grabbing Microsoft and saying, or whatever company you see that an article has been written on, and say, hey, why don't you become the CEO of this company for a bit? Well, that's scary. Well, why don't you try it? What decisions would you make that would help this company grow? You see? So it's not that hard. By the way, you'll find that your children will start to ask you questions and you may not be able to answer them because they're digging deep behind the scenes, right? But they get interested in what's going on around them. And I can tell you right now, in the business world, even my daughters have figured this out, money is money. If there's no money going to a certain area, okay, there's probably not going to be that many jobs. Or there might be some jobs, but they're not going to be well-paid jobs. And if you spend a lot of time going through education and career, spending a lot of money on time in education, and you come out and the value is not there with the job pay, you're going to be very disappointed. So if we can model a lot of different areas for the students that think that it's exciting, they'll find it more interesting to go down those paths, and they might turn out to be in a great spot. So finally, I think this is important as well, okay? Your children need to know how to sell themselves. So what I think everybody should do here is always practice with their children an elevator pitch. And for people that don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's a way to be able to say something quickly and get your point across. Because there's going to be a lot of positions and times when your children, who are going to be adults or university, who are going to get an opportunity to be in front of somebody like me as a CEO of a company, and they're going to miss the opportunity to say something important that catches my attention. And if you catch my attention, you might be able to go farther in my company because I say, you know what, I like what you said. Okay, I'll take that up later. Or go see somebody in the company. Or you're out with somebody and they say, I like what you said. Go talk to this person. There's a great career there. So what we need to teach our children is how to be prepared to give a question or give an answer to somebody in a very short period of time or tell a good story. So I'm going to end with something. We call it the elevator pitch, which is if you get in the elevator on the 20th floor and it's going to ground one with the CEO in there, you've got that much time to tell that CEO what you think. If you miss that, you might never get that chance again. So you got to be able to get your point across. The faster that your children can say, okay, I've got a point, I'm going to tell you, and I move on. They practice it, they get good at it. Okay? So I'm going to end with a story. Because it's always good to tell a story. Because if you tell a good story, then people are going to listen to you and they're going to agree with what you're trying to sell them. So everybody here has probably heard of Alice in Wonderland. Has everybody heard of that movie? Yeah, most people don't know what it really involves. So what it really involves is it actually involves mercury poisoning. Even though the story was written in England, it involves Hudson Bay. So once you tell stories like this to your children, they get a lot more excited about the periodic table and mercury, which is right here in the periodic table. And they get a lot more excited about digging deeper on a movie. So Alice in Wonderland, to most people, is just a crazy little movie. But behind the scenes, it's a lot deeper story. So what happened in Canada was that when you made a hat in England, a hat was made of mink fur. And it was soft, it was beautiful, okay? And what happened is they over-trapped the mink in Canada. So they had to start switching because the cost of mink, supply and demand, business, the supply of mink started to go down. And what happened to the cost of mink? Did it go up or down? This is economics, which everybody can say here. It went up, absolutely. So what happened is people stopped buying mink hat. So they started to replace it with beaver hat. The problem with beaver is you can see that the mink pelt was a lot softer fur than a beaver fur. So the Mad Hatter, which was a true person in England, what they did is they took the beaver pelt, put them in a bathtub, and put mercury in the bathtub. Within a very short period of time, the beaver pelt became nice and soft, like a mink. So, business decision. They would go buy very cheap beaver pelts, put them in mercury, soften the fur up, and sell them as mink pelt at a much higher price. Great business, right? Smart. Here is the problem. Yes, eventually the Canada Goose, that's right. So here's the problem. People were wearing these hats. Guess what was inside the hat on the fur? Mercury. And what does mercury do? Mercury gives you mercury poisoning, which makes you go mad. And therefore, the Mad Hatter in Alice Wonderland went mad because he was mercury poisoned. So now when you tell a story like this, you encase business, you encase the periodic table, you encase all kinds of different things. So I hope that was, I know it's 8:50. I hope it wasn't too over everybody. But what I'm getting at here is that there is a great way to interact with your children and get them to start reading articles, and you read it with them. If I leave you with anything, I think that's the biggest thing. And you start to develop plans with them. And I can assure you, they will really blow you away with what they come back with. And then you go into the companies, and then you can do all your mock trading as well, which is what we do at the end of the day with the Wharton Business Competition, which is here, which we were entered in last year. There was 3,000 or 4,000 teams, okay? And I can go across here and show you all the different things. Here's a company that is in AI called Railtown. You can go and look up AI companies, and then you can actually dig into them and go and look at their share structures, and you can go see what the people did that works there. And it's a great way for your kids to go online and start to look at all the different companies that are in AI. Because when you go look at one company, they're going to show all the other companies that are in competition with them, and they can start to see what's going on around them out there. So, and then again, here's the numbers. So I won't talk much more, but I know that's a lot of information packed into one, but do we have some questions? Or I'll let Ms. Shelley come on there. I apologize if I said too much, but I try to get as much in for you guys to wrap your heads around. Yeah, thank you for that, Jing. This is what we have to do, because if we don't do this, the students are unguided, and I'm not saying that by the parents, but the schooling system doesn't do this. And so we have to help them get a lot more relaxed about what they want to do. Question, Ms. Shelley, you want to?
Yeah, talking about the school system. So I run an after-school center, but I actually think parents are the best teachers. They should always be the best teachers. And today, I guess most of you read about the gifted programs being canceled, right? So you just, it's based on interest, no longer you're gifted. My daughter was in the gifted program and she benefited from it a lot, but now it's canceled. So I kind of have lost hope for the public school system. Not every kid can go to private school, and even if they go to the top private schools, it's still up to the kid himself or herself to really want to learn. And as a parent, you are with your kids almost 24/7, so you are the biggest influencer in your children's upbringing or in your children's decision for the future. So I hope if there's anything that you can take away from this lecture is, okay, maybe tomorrow we can find a hot issue, maybe even just this Johnny and Amber case. Like, the deeper discussion, what can we find behind that? That's my advice. But we welcome questions.
Can Can I just go on for one more second before that? I want to bring up something that is interesting for the parents here, which we actually did this poll with the students, and I challenge all the parents here to do this as well. You can see on my screen over here that you've got lots of stocks, and we these are stocks that I trade and invest in, and some of them. And it's interesting to know that, and I'm not going to ask you to tell me what it is, and I'll just bring this up here right now so that I can, everybody can see my screen, right? Okay, great. I'm going to the chat again here. Let me just see the chat. Everybody here, let's just say you pay 50% tax in this country, okay? And I'm not saying that everybody does pay 50%. It might be 30%, 40%. But I polled all my students, and there's 80 to 100 students, and we asked them to go to their parents and ask them, are you happy with your tax rate? And every single parent came back and said, I despise paying 40% or 50%, and I didn't want to know how much the parents pay, so I'm just going to use it as 50%. So for everybody that's making $300,000 a year, they're paying 50% tax, $150,000. So that upsets you, right? Because that's going back to the government. And you don't have any say in that. It just goes back to the government. So here's a little trick, and it involves business. If you're going to pay 50% of your taxes to the government, right, then you don't have any say. The government takes that money and they spend it. And we know what they spend it on, right? They spend it on schools, police officers, all this type of thing. But here's another interesting thing that helps your students or your children find the right way the money's going. Cybersecurity, I'm just going to use that as an example. Cybersecurity is a very big area right now, and the government pumps a lot of money into cybersecurity to protect you as a citizen and that. Where do you think they get all that money from? Where do you think the money that the government spends on cybersecurity companies to protect your information? It comes from you. Yes, Jill. From taxes. By the way, the kids get this right away. So let me ask you something. If you're going to pay 50% tax every year, why not go find companies that are in the cybersecurity area that you know the government's going to be spending your tax money on and invest in those companies? I can show you some here, but believe it, they've all gone up by 50 to 100%, a lot of them. So if you take your remaining 50% of your money, I know you've got mortgages and cars and children, but if you take some of that money that you've got and reinvest it in companies that the government is investing in, they're all going up because their earnings are going up. Their earnings are going up because the government is using your taxpayers' money to go invest in that company to grow. Hey, you get a percentage of your taxpayers' money back. So I thought I'd just throw that out there for the mindset that I like to teach to the students here. And then they get this, and they're not even paying taxes yet. And they're going, let's go find all those companies that the government's putting my mom and dad's tax money in, because maybe I want to work for those companies because I know they're going to be funded by the government. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as the mindset that I like you and all of us to come with when we come to the table talking to our children. So, questions? Yeah, that's a great question, Shane. Yeah, we if I say your name wrong, it's because I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese. But yes, I do. I've had a lot of I've had parents send their kids that have done a second MBA, 2 MBAs at different schools. So now they've spent $200,000 and 7 years of education, and you won't believe this. They still don't know where they're going. So yeah, I've helped educate people. Now that I see the big problem out there, over the last 5 years, I spent a lot of time helping people guide them. Not to tell them where to go, but here's the tools at your disposal. Wired, MIT, Bloomberg, SHELLY put it here, Morning Brew, which she put on here for free. Go and start reading those. I have a lot of students now, they're grade 7 and 8 and 9. They go on to Morning Brew every morning and download all the new information there on Morning Brew about what's going on around them. and it just generates new ideas that they look and say, oh, I know where things are going now. And it gives them more confidence to start saying, I know what kind of education I'm going to get, because they've modeled this now, not once, but 30 and 40 times, just like you modeled your house to know where the kitchen is. It makes it more comfortable for them now to make decisions on what they want and what they don't want. So that's the answer to that. Shelley? Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moon. I know this is his teaching style as well, so it's like a slightly modified lesson. And I think he really wants to encourage parents to be more interactive with the kids. So you have my, if I can share screen, Mr. Moon. Can you allow me? Can you stop sharing?
Sorry?
Can you stop sharing?
Oh, yeah, I'll stop.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I just want to share.
No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
And by the way, thank you for having me on today. I hope that gave some people some guidance.
Absolutely, James. Thank you so much. It was so informative.
I thank everybody for taking the time to stay on and listen as well. I know everybody's busy.
Yeah. So just a quick announcement. If you are interested, or if you have kids in high school who want to learn more about like what Mr. Moon just introduced today. So we do have it's called an open house or demo trial class on Sunday, June the 5th, from 1 to 2 o'clock. Yeah?
And Dan, no, actually, what I will say is that I think that if your child wants to go to engineering, it's a great profession. My grandfather was an engineer, a very big electrical engineer, and that's a great area to be in. But the students your children have to know what is there in that engineering area. So Shelley's daughter is at engineering school at Waterloo, and she's in AI biotech. So it's not just engineering, but it's down a certain path. But I think a lot of our children are so scared, I have to become an engineer, and it's not maybe where they need to be. So they just have to be able to work out through that modeling, looking at the different opportunities to see whether that's really necessary to do or not, because maybe they're not good at math. So that's all I'm saying, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah. Follow the money, right? So it's more important to say which areas to go.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people say follow the money, but they don't know what that means. So what that means is go find out where the real money is going, like cybersecurity. You're not gonna like this, but in short-range missiles right now, like that destroy tanks and that, because you don't need to spend all the money on a tank. So governments spend money on short-range missiles now to protect so go buy things like Raytheon, which makes short-range missiles, because that's the new warfare. So you got to be able to think like that.
I actually don't agree. Engineering school is not boring. My daughter is, like Moon was saying, in Waterloo Biomedical Engineering. She just finished her 3rd year, and she's doing her 4th co-op. She's paid 75 Canadian dollars per hour for this co-op job, and she loves it. It's not even biomedical engineering, it's data science, because she loves problem solving. And so a few days ago, she heard from James that so a lot of the stock market, the investment is cutting down on many areas, including AI. So she immediately started to think, what about me? When I graduate, will there be jobs for me? If startups, if the big companies, they don't get more investment, they may not recruit new students. So she started to have this sense of crisis, right? And I think that's the influence in our family, because James talks about it all the time. So for your kids, if they are exposed to this kind of the way of thinking, they will be very, very alert to what is happening around them, where the money is, where do I want to be. Yeah. But engineering is not boring. It depends. For people who like problem solving, it's actually very challenging, very interesting.
Thanks, Shelly, for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if nobody's in a rush, I'm not in a rush either. It's 9 o'clock. I work waking up at 5:30 in the morning. We go late at night every day, and I'm in my 50s now, but lots of energy all the time because this is, exciting, right? It's all about education. My mom was a teacher, by the way, from grade 7 and 8 for 32 years. So I grew up in that environment as well.
So I will stop sharing. I think was I sharing?
Not yet. You're trying to share screen?
Oh, I thought all the time I thought I was sharing. No, it's just my WeChat. If you want to even get through to James, you can always add me, and then, yeah.
You guys will like this. We run Teams, Joe, and I don't know how many people run Teams or that, but I want to show you guys something. It'll be hard for you to see on the screen because it's blurry, but these are all the students, Joe, that that constantly send me messages, whether they're at university or not now, asking about certain things. So it becomes an interesting environment that you can create with your own children so that they're constantly questioning or asking questions. And once they start to get excited by this, you'll notice I'm wearing blue tonight with a blue tie. I always make sure that they, the first person to be able to say, oh, I see what color you're wearing tonight. And so these are the fun things that catch their attention all the time.
Right. And actually the children, they are enjoying talking to the parents. It's just we all have a busy life, right? Yeah, working tonight.
Exactly,
you don't really have that time to communicate with them. And if you do it, you can actually find out a lot of interesting things from their point of view. Yeah.
Especially if they start to read all these articles. And I know it's a bit of an investment, but we'll post the Excel spreadsheet of all the magazines that I found have been the best tools that attracted the children's attention over the last 5 years. And we'll post them. And then you can go on and they're yearly subscriptions. Some of them are $50, $30, some are $90 for a year. But you can do a group of them, and they're annual, they're digital, and they can access them all the time. And it's incredible the power of what's in those magazines. These are good magazines, but you can vet them yourself, decide whether you want them to read that or not. And it just elicits more ideas out there for them.
Yeah,
yes.
Also,
Sorry. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, as a parent, I can totally sympathize with what you were saying. Kids love doing whatever parents are doing together with them, right? So for this, my advice is, how about once a week, so Thursday maybe for this meeting, the webinars, every Friday evening, half an hour, it's a family discussion time. So find an article that you are interested in. Let's go deep into this article and have some discussion, like every Friday. Make it very cozy. So it's ice cream or, some cozy night, half an hour to start with. And then soon you will realize you may want 1 hour, you may want to do it every other day. It's, as a parent, it's something we have to do if we want our kids to be successful. So I didn't spend much time with my daughter since I came here. So I came here in 2011, so it has been 11 years. But prior to that, I have spent so much time with my daughter, and it's not just being physically together with her. I was interactive with her all the time, like getting her to think, getting her to do research on her own, not to give her answers, but I was always there for her. And I realized that the more time I spent with her when she was young, the less time I had to spend on her when she gets older. And now I start to learn from her. So I'm feeling how my efforts when she was young has been rewarded. And just want to share this with parents. The earlier the better, the sooner the better, the more time the better.
And for all the parents out here, I want to I can't, maybe I shouldn't share. Just maybe one more share, Jill, for a second. I want to show you guys
Absolutely.
one thing here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. This right here, the Wharton Business School competition.
Okay. Not showing yet. You have to press the share.
Oh, yeah, I have to press
the share screen.
Yeah, share screen. And then, see, where is it? Oh, yeah, here, share. Okay. Did it share?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
So I want to give you guys something interesting. This is not a product push to sell to say, oh, you need to sign your students up. But I taught this course this summer. So what the Wharton Business School is, it's the competition that goes from September till January. And the teams are anywhere from 4 to 7 members. And so I taught the course in the summertime. It is expensive. I charge for it because I don't work for free in the real world of business, and that's just the way it is. But then I also take the same team from September to January and work completely free. So we start in June and we go right through till January next year. But I just want to say something about this. We were in the competition for the first time this year, and the competition exploded. It's international now. So there's teams from China, Indonesia, Brazil, India, United States, Canada, Czech Republic, all over the world. There was thousands and thousands of teams. So I believe we're in the top 200 at the end, and then they went down to top 50, and then this is the team that won. I've been in this business a long time, in the business of stocks and everything else and trading, but I have never had so much rigorous work. I think I put in some point 4 and 5 hours a day on top of my regular job and teaching to get the students prepared for this final, essay. So there's midterms, there's final terms, there's mock stock trading when it gets going. You actually have a portfolio. You're making it for this person. So you can do it to us. There's other people that are out there, but I advise, and by the way, students can do it by themselves. They can get a team of people, 4 to 7 together and go in this contest. I can't say enough about this. It's tough. It's overwhelming almost, but boy, does it ever teach you a lot about the business world in quantitative, qualitative, and they don't help you at all. You got to do this all yourself. But, I had 3 teams this year, 7, 21 students all in high school. And it was exhilarating doing it, especially for the first time. So I thought I'd just throw that out there because it's an interesting competition. And if you win, you get to go to Wharton Business School for the summer for free in their courses. And of course, you get certificates, even if you don't win. Every student gets a certificate that's in there in the Wharton Business School. And it's really interesting. I even had some students, Dan, you would have loved this. We had to decide who this person was. So she's a real live person, and we had to do a portfolio for her, but we also had to do, like Jill does for everybody here, she creates a profile on who you are. So we don't get to physically meet her, but we had some students that would do bots, that actually create bots that would track everything that she said on Twitter for the last 7 years, everything that she's done on LinkedIn. So the students get completely encapsulated in the business world, the investment world, the social side of the world. It really is quite something. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. That interesting course.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's totally new and interesting to us. Yeah, great.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, we can see your enthusiasm in this education area.
Oh,
really appreciate.
When you see the students go from being gaming all day to suddenly going and saying, "Geez, I just came up with a new career."
Right.
And then they put it in front of all the students, the career, and everybody goes, "Are you kidding me? Don't do that. There's only going to be 3 years around, and then it's going to disappear." It's a lot of fun. So you can do this as parents as well, and go back and forth on potential careers and ideas out there.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
And thank you, Shelly, for sharing the WeChat. So we don't have a recording for tonight's presentation, but if everybody needs information about focus learning, you are very welcome to reach out to me or SHELLY.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming to the webinar, and thank you Jill and Jerry for inviting us. It was very pleasant.
Thank you for the opportunity to share those information with us. Yeah, it's very informative.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jill.
All right, thanks again.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, SHELLY. Thank you, James.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dan.